It is Saturday, June 21st, 2025. Opposite the entrance of the Reading and Northern's Nesquehoning campus on the west side of town, former CSX SD50s number 5019 and 5020 stand by for a special duty. The task is simple: to follow and provide assistance when needed to the star of our show, Class T1484 number 2102. For only the second time in its excursion career, the mighty Northern is set to negotiate the railroad's entire Lehigh Division, following stretches of ex-central of New Jersey and Lehigh Valley to the village of Tunkhannock for the town's 44th annual Founders Day Festival. On a hazy summer morning not dissimilar to that 364 days prior, the village of Nesquehoning is teeming with life as the hooter sounds, marking 5 minutes until go time. Between 1923 and 1925, the Baldwin Locomotive Works delivered 50 280s to the Reading Company under the Class I-10 SA. After World War II, the newest 30 of these heavy consolidations received a new lease on life. By lengthening the boiler and placing the whole thing on 70-inch drivers with new running gear, the Reading successfully developed their homegrown Class T1, predominantly used by the road for time-sensitive fast freight and coal service. Just over a century ago, Reading 280 number 2044 moved under its own power for the very first time. After 20 years of service, it became 484 number 2102. Now, aged almost 80 in its current identity, the very same engine is poised to take on the climb through the Lehigh Gorge, awaited by an assortment of cameras at the Glen and Onoko rock cut. For the next 20 miles by rail, there is no public access by car as the line winds along the river, paralleled only by the pedestrian and cyclist-friendly D&L Trail. Our next vantage point is roughly a mile north of Whitehaven along Middleburg Road. Just beyond the road crossing, a smaller set of gates guards the exact same trail from the other side of the gorge. Within a few minutes, the 2102 powers through at a good clip. A decently large crowd is formed at Penobscot, where the grade flattens out before descending sharply towards Pittston. A tank car full of water is staged to refill the tender of the T1 after having covered 38 route miles of mostly uphill running. After just a few minutes, the train rounds into frame before coming to a stop short of the 155 signal bridge. While the tender is being filled, engines 5019 and 5020 from earlier peak out slowly before resuming to the control point at Solomon's Gap.
So when those two diesels came through, they came through like 10 minutes after.
Not long after, the SD50s reappear, reversing back into town to couple on front. Although the Big Northern has no problem at all dragging her 16-car train uphill, the diesel duo namely provide dynamic braking effort for the stout grade down Penobscot Mountain. Soon after coupling and tying in the air, the train eases on to the next leg of the journey, led by SD50 number 5020. Near the often photographed cemetery in Duryea, the ramble is soon to round the bend, coasting the last mile or so into Duryea Yard, where the diesels will be taken off. Before this, however, the former Lackawanna tracks down the hill are hot with an SD38 powered local. North of the Lackawanna County line along Lower Narrows Road, the once more unassisted 2102 begins on the final leg to Tunkhannock. At Falls, the ramble ducks under Pennsylvania Route 92, which will follow the tracks for the remainder of the journey. Right outside of Tunkhannock, the 484 and her train needn't do much but coast, passing another water tanker soon to be revisited after passengers are dropped off. Just under a half hour later, the SD-50s appear, make a long pause to change head-end configuration, then continue into town to pick the 2102 up for maintenance. A little over 2 hours further into the afternoon, the Founders Day layover in Tunkhannock is nearing its end. Unlike last year, the helping hands remain up front until the steamer can be turned around in Pittston. Unusually, the train is about 3 minutes late to depart. At Pittston, the 2102 will detach and use the Y to turn around, allowing it to face forward for the remainder of the day. Besides the crowd, the first sign of life on the Reading and Northern appears in the form of a familiar diesel pair, clearing the way ahead for the Ramble. Along the southeast leg of the Y, the T1 makes its way past an array of EMDs in various past and present RBMN paint schemes. Now backing toward her train, the Northern activates the old-fashioned but novel wigwag crossing installation. Most remaining signals of this variety are found in museums. Less than 3 miles by Crow across Pittston is the popular grade crossing at Oak Street. With many sets of eyes, ears, and recording equipment watching and listening, the 2102 was heard well before it can be seen, soldiering up the unwavering 2% grade out of town. Soon to crest the summit, the 2102 thunders furiously past Solomon's Gap, with enough drama to earn a round of applause. On the other side of a final watering stop at Penobscot, the 16-car excursion glides around the S-curve at Kirby Avenue. In Whitehaven, a gracious fellow railfan provides a photogenic vantage point from his own backyard, right before the 484 comes coasting through. Finally, even louder than last year, with an abundance of coal-rich black plumes of smoke, Reading, Blue Mountain, and Northern T1 number 2102 puts on a phenomenal show at Nesquehoning Tunnel as it triumphantly tackles the final grade into Nesquehoning proper. Thank you for watching, be sure to look out for more soon, and happy rail fanning!